grab my gear, load the truck. Heading out, don't give a truck. Rifles locked, boots tied tight. Gonna catch that deer all through the night. Hunting in the Highland Hill, chasing dreams and catching thrills. The wind is howling, the game is near. In the woods, our favorite place, my dear. Hunting in the Highland Hill.
Good afternoon, this is David T from Field Sports Scotland. I'm coming to you with another episode of FSS Chat Back. I haven't done one in ages. It's been a couple of weeks. Reason for that is I have been so busy. I've had guests. I've been working on on my deer culls and just trying to get on with things and catch up with a whole heap of stuff before coming back to you. I've also been in the middle of a very intense review on the DNT Optics TNC225 multispectral scope. I have put a couple of sneak peeks of what I've been doing with that on the DNT Global Owners Facebook page, but I haven't really kind of been advertising too much because I want to do this. Like, apart from the unboxing I did a few weeks ago, I didn't want to kind of spoil what was going on. I'm just trying to work through that review right now. And there's a lot of things I want to say. There's a lot of things I like. There's a few things I dislike. And this is kind of going to be the topic. It's going to be a pre-review review of what to expect from night vision and thermal in the future and things like that. I know I've talked about this a few times, but I thought I would kind of update you guys on really what is going on with this whole review side of things. I have been working with the DNT Zulus on my left-hand side for a number of months now, and I am now reviewing this one here, which is the TNC225. Now, as you see, it's sitting on my 243 at the moment, and I have been working with multiple grains of bullet. I've been working with the 70 grain, the 80 grain, the 55 grain, and I have been working with the 100 grain for deer. The 80 grain I've been using coppers for deer, and I've also been using the 100 grain for deer as well. It's a fantastic rifle. It's an old rifle. It's not an expensive rifle. Nothing special about the rifle. It's an old A-Bolt 2. I think I picked it up for about 450 quid, but it's got a good 26-inch barrel, and it is pretty much a tack driver. It just sits there, and whatever, it is fussy on ammo, but the ammo that I use on it seems to be quite good. Yeah, so I've actually, because I've been working with this TNC 225, I just thought I would kind of have a wee discussion in regards to the use of thermal. Now, the DNT TNC 225 is a multispectral unit. So it has color day vision, black and white night vision, built-in IR, the same IR it's on the Zulus. It's kind of the same scope as the Zulus when it comes to night vision and day vision, because it's a 5 to 20 times magnification. And it has thermal. Now, you can use the thermal for shooting. You can zero them both. You zero them both together anyway. You can zero the day and night vision, and then you just match the reticle up to what you're looking at in regards to the thermal. So it's a very simple process. You zero one, and then you just match the reticle up to the other. So it's great that way. So zeroing it and things like that is fine. The technical side of the things of the DNT TNC 225 Thermite, I'm not going to go into just now, because I'm going to leave that to the main the main review. However, there is a few things that I want to address in regards to using thermal at night. As you know, I did a little review there. I had a look through the Stellar, which is new for HIC Micro, and there was a few concerns I had with that in the short period of time I had with that. Because it doesn't have that option to flick onto night vision or day vision mode, identification, sex identification, species identification, and things like that, especially when you're using it for deer, is still very, very difficult. And I know there's a lot of guys that are going out there and they're going to be spending £3,000, £4,000, £5,000, even £6,000 or £7,000 on new thermal scopes, hoping that they're going to get that clarity that you get from a day optic. In fact, many of you guys that are using them on night vision for deer, now that it's available in Scotland to do that, I would suggest move towards more of a night vision scope. In fact, a cheaper night vision scope for deer than, and then invest in a good spotter than invest in a very expensive thermal unit for the use of deer. Now, there's going to be a few that's going to argue with me on this fact. You still cannot see hard horn antlers at a distance. Fine if they're in velvet, but you cannot see hard horn antlers. So you can't tell if it's a stag or a hind, for instance, or a buck or a doe, or anything like that. You cannot tell what species it is from above 200 yards. You could tell it's a deer. If it doesn't matter what deer you're shooting, that's fine. In the forestry and things like that, that's totally fine. That's not a big deal. However, you still have that thermal bleed so that you'll see a full size deer even at 60, 70 yards, but you won't see the cover in front of it. Now, I've got a few videos of that is going on at the TNC. Thermal is still very much a spotting item. Shooting foxes, yeah, you'll be able to tell the range of foxes, tell what foxes, if it's a fox or whatever, at a good range on some of the higher end ones, maybe 200 to 300 yards. However, you're still missing out that cover. You're still not able to see fully the detail of cover between you and the fox. You're also not always guaranteed to see what your backstops are going to be properly, what the actual real elemental and environmental conditions are around about it, because of the fact of thermal works slightly different. It is not a proper view of what you're shooting at. And again, you'll get lots of guys that will argue with me in regards to that if they're shooting along across big open fields. Thermal is not the be all and end all. It is a tool. It really is. It's a good tool to have. It's an amazing tool to have. It's an expensive tool to have. And you really need to think about what you want from that tool before you invest lots and lots of money into it. Now, many of the companies are not going down that multispectral route like what DNT Optics is doing. The multispectral is a huge, amazing, game-changing tool. I can spot, whether it's a white hot or black hot or red hot or whatever palette color it is, I can spot and tell that there's something there. It may not be able to tell me what it actually is. It might not be able to tell me it's a deer. It might not be able to tell me it's a fox or whatever, but it tells me that there is something there. Then with the picture-in-picture mode on the DNT TNC, you don't even need to switch over. You can keep it on night vision. If you're struggling to see on night vision, but you're definitely picking up a heat signature, then obviously it's not going to be safe to shoot. You don't know what it is. It could be somebody's cat or dog, It could be somebody's, hamster. I don't know. But it could be somebody. It could even be a person in the trees, and you are thinking it is a deer. It could be somebody hiding from you, and then suddenly you have just put a hole through them because, and you haven't identified them properly. That is the problem with night vision when it comes to cover. And when it comes to all sorts of things, not night vision, thermal, when it comes to cover. At least with the backup of night vision, the backup of a digital day vision, you can actually see what is going on in front of you, in front of that muzzle, in front of you squeezing that trigger. You can make lots of decisions before getting to that point where you are deciding to squeeze the trigger. And that is the most important part of this, is safety. So today's podcast is really about safety, because I still feel that thermal rifle scopes are still not quite safe enough for to be used at night, especially in populated areas, especially in areas where there's heavy cover like forest and woods and stuff like that. It is to this. I work in rural locations all the time. I'm a lone worker most of the time, just me and the dog. And yes, I do not expect to see people out when I'm out shooting deer at night under license. I do not expect people to be walking through the wood or walking through over the terrain that I am working in. However, they do it. This not be the first time that I have come across people walking through the wood at 3 o'clock in the morning in the pitch black. And I'm going, what the hell are they doing here? You know, it is something you have to be aware of as a nighttime shooter. A lot of people are coming into this business because of the price of night optics have come down. You could get a very, very good night vision, digital night vision setup for under £1,000 now. If you spend anywhere between £600 and £1,000 on some of the items that are out there, you will have a very, very good night vision unit. Thermal is also coming down. There's some of the 225 optics, the technology is coming on so much in regards to screen resolutions, sensor resolutions, and things like that. It's making it a lot less expensive to actually put these products together. And that is getting passed on in many ways by the consumers. Something that may cost about £4,000 or £5,000 3-4 years ago are now looking at the same product, and the same specs of products are now looking at something under the £2,000 mark. And in many cases, some of those products are getting even cheaper, closer to the £1,000 mark. And that gets people excited, which is good. It is very good that people are excited about these products, but it also brings a lot of people into the business that have never used these products before. And they don't understand fully the pitfalls that these products can bring, especially when it comes to thermal. Now, one of the things I will say about thermal is that it is depending on your usage. You talk to any specialist on thermal, any of the people who have got podcasts on it, any of the people who use it on a daily basis. You go look at the American side of thing where they're using AGM rattlers and all sorts of stuff going, and even far more expensive stuff, and they're shooting out to 200 to 300 yards on coyotes or feral hogs or whatever. You look at them and they'll all tell you each different thermal setup has its different uses. Now, whether it's 225, 226, 356 or 386 or 640 or the new 1040s or 1280s, between them all, they all have fairly good detection ranges. They've all got over the capability of most shooters shooting at night detection ranges. Identification ranges do vary up to the 640 mark. You might not be able to get a detection range under 100 yards, or from about 100 yards up to 200 yards up to the 640 mark. And you might go a little bit 300 to 400 yards after that in detection range, but your resolution is only as good as your base magnification. So if you've got a 5-time base mag with a 225 sensor or 226 sensor on your thermal unit, you're actually probably going to get more detail at closer range if you've got a 2.5 times base magnification with a 640, for instance. It's that base magnification that actually makes the difference between these scopes. And when you actually look from 640 to the 1280, the actual difference, other than a little bit extra clarity, the actual difference in capabilities of those scopes is not much different from each other. You're still probably only going to have a maximum shooting range out to 250 to 300 yards at night safely. Unless you have got massive, wide open fields that with infinite backstop and all sorts of stuff, you're really not going to push your rifle out to at night past that 200 yard mark. I know I've done shots out to 300 yards. I know there's many guys that have Foxers that have done shots out to 300 yards. And that is pretty much the maximum capability. And if you have got a 2.5 or 3 times base magnification looking at something at 300 yards, it's not very big. You know, it's not like you're getting proper zoomed in. And this is not like your day optics. Your daytime optics, whether you're at 50 yards or 500 yards, your clarity, if you're zooming up those ranges, say you've got a 3 to 12, for instance, or let's just say, let's get a bit better, 5 to 20 optic, right? Your clarity isn't going to change much between 5 times zoom and 20 times zoom on a day optic, on a clear glass day optic. So when you're dialing in, you're going to see what you're going to see at both. So whether that's at 5 times you're looking at something at sub 100 yards, or at 20 times when you're looking at something that is 500 yards away, you're still going to get a pretty clear picture of what you're shooting at. That doesn't work with digital, whether it's night vision, day vision, or thermal. That doesn't work like that. Your base mag is always going to your best clarity, and then as you go up those magnification ranges, that clarity doesn't get any better. All it will ever do is get worse, no matter what sensor that you're using. So this is where multispectrals come in. Multispectrals from any brand come in. If you've got digital day night vision along with your thermal, you can use that far more responsibly than you can if it is a standalone thermal rifle scope. Now, yes, there are going to be exceptions. I don't deny that, but I have really enjoyed using the DNT TNC Thermite. Now, it is limited in regards to its thermal sensor and things, but I'm used to working with digital night vision quite a lot. So working the digital night vision and day vision is my main source of shooting, and using the thermal as an additional spotter built into the scope so I'm able to track whatever animal I'm shooting is an absolute game changer. It is probably the most responsible way of using this type of equipment. With the thermal ones, to get close to any kind of proper, you are having to spend £3,000, £4,000, £5,000. And hopefully the technology, and I'm speaking to the likes of DNT Optics and various other, and people are working on stuff. There's no guarantees yet. There's no definites, but people are working on making this technology far better, make it a little bit less expensive for the consumer, for the hope that people will future-proof the industry. I do have to say this though, until people learn to, as in the consumer, learn how to use these products properly, then I swear that thermal night vision, no matter what, it will still have its limitations. You'll still find it hard to see things in heavy cover. you will still find guys and girls who will, most likely guys though, who will shoot at a white image and not fully realise what they're shooting at. They may have a small educated guess on what they're shooting at, but without lots and lots of practice, lots and lots of trigger time, even I don't rely on my thermal spotter. I back it up with either glass or I back it up with the night vision. And if I can't fully see what it is, I just keep looking and keep waiting until it gives me a better image to tell me what it is. I usually have an educated guess on what it is, but I will never ever put that rifle to my eye and to my shoulder, ready to take a shot without fully knowing what I'm ready to shoot at. And that is a hugely important thing for me, because I work in a lot of areas that, although are very rural, I also have areas that are not so rural and very suburban and close to villages, close to houses, always close to people, other people. I'm also very aware, since the lockdown, since COVID, people have been more eager to get out and about at all times of day and night. This year has been a specific example because we've had a high magnetic year in regards to the Northern Lights. Now, everybody in the country has probably had a chance to, in the UK as a whole, has probably had a chance to look at the Northern Lights. But that takes you to the darkest places where you have no idea who's out there doing pest control or doing deer management or whatever. And for those deer managers and for those guys that are out doing pest control, those ladies and gentlemen who are doing pest control, they don't know who's wandering about their fields looking for the best part of the sky to look at, because we are seeing a lot more people. I was out the other night there at one of my properties, and I had two people sitting in the middle of the field with a telescope trying to find this comet thing that were going on because it was a beautiful clear sky. Now, that's the same field that I never see anybody in, not let alone the farmer in, never mind anybody else. They were sitting in the middle of this field, in the middle of nowhere, cows in the opposite field, with a telescope looking into the sky. Now, when I used my spotter to see the thermal over that ground, I was like, who the hell's in the middle of the field? I couldn't tell it was people at first because they were curled up and they had blankets over them. They didn't look like people at a distance. They were 300 or 400 yards away and they looked like a strange blob. Now, my first instinct wasn't to put the rifle to the shoulder thinking it was a fox or anything, because it didn't look like a fox. But for many people, it could have been. It could have been that instinct. So you're seeing more and more people going out at night, going and looking at nature at night. It's becoming cheaper for them to have little night vision devices and cameras and stuff like that. And the things that they can see at night that they can't see during the day, like owls and bats and various other wildlife that come out at night, foxes and all sorts, badgers even, you know? Now, in Scotland, yes, we have this kind of right to fair access and things like that, right to reasonable access. Some people call it right to roam. It's not really, but I'm not going to get into that just now because of the legalities over right to roam, but it's right to access is a slightly different thing. But we really can't stop anybody from walking in the middle of a field and putting a blanket down, huddling up on a blanket, underneath a blanket and stargazing. We just won't do that. You know, so we have to be aware when it comes to being pest control and deer management and stuff like that. And I don't think thermal quite does that for us. You know, not quite yet. We are not able to be as 100% safe with it. We have to use all the tools that we've got, our eyes, our ears, night vision, digital night vision that can see images properly, a decent IR with the digital night vision, and thermal for spotting. Yeah, bring an image up, tell that something's there. use every other sense, every other tool to determine what that something is before you decide to put a rifle to your shoulder. Now, my problem is you've got guys that are going out there, and girls, who have thermal spotter and a thermal rifle scope on top. Standard rifle scope, standard spotter. They're going out there, and yes, they're getting results when they're doing their pest control or whatever management they're doing, but they've got nothing else backing up what they can see and what they can identify, etc. Just got to bear that in mind. Anyway, I think I've ranted enough. I'm not ranting, I'm just giving a bit of information, because working with a DNT Thermite, TNC 225, all those numbers and things like that, working with that multispectral unit, I could see that that should be the future of how night vision and pest control scopes and stuff like that work. Blend a multispectral unit, digital daytime, digital nighttime, and thermal all on top of each other, gives you the best tool in one unit. And that's like, I've looked at a couple of binoculars, like the Hick Micro Habrox recently, and they've got the exact same thing. They have got the multispectral use. So if you're scanning with you're looking over and you see a thermal image, perfect. Flick it on to night vision. It's within a couple of 100 yards. You've got the rangefinder as well. That's like that DNT Thermite. It's got a rangefinder. It's got everything you possibly need to make that safe shot at night. It's got all the tools in one scope. And that is what we need when we're moving forward into this industry. We need all the tools possible within one unit so that we could quickly identify, quickly know that we're safe, and quickly take the shot. It is simple. It is basic safety in the end. It's safer for you. It's safer for other people. It's also safer for animals that are not target animals, and it's more humane for those target animals as well. Right, stop on that. Woo, woosah. I'm not ranting. I'm just explaining the benefits of this, because the way the market is going, it is going fantastic. I mean, it's the most exciting market you could ever be part of right now. And one of the reasons why I haven't done a podcast in about 3-4 weeks is because of the fact is I'm trying to get all this information into my head. I'm trying to give you the best advice as a consumer as possible. And I am still getting lots of questions on my YouTube stuff on regards to how things work. How do we do this? Ballistic calculator, stuff like that. And people, I've realized, I've stopped using their own knowledge. They've stopped you. I'm not putting anybody down for asking questions, because there's no such thing as a stupid question. It's just how it's answered that could be stupid. Now, and simple questions, if you don't know, you don't know. So you need to ask them. But there is certain things that these devices just cannot do. They cannot tell you what your windage is at your target. They can't tell you what your windage is most of the time. And all of these products they can't tell you what your wind is at you. So you have to make your own wind calls, or determine your own wind calls from using a Kestrel or various other items. Now, that's whether it's a digital day vision, digital night vision, any kind of digital scope. There's nothing that is going to calibrate, is going to be a point and click every time. So you still have to know your fundamentals. You cannot, because your rangefinder gives you a bullet drops comparison, and it tells you where you aim a target. Yeah, up to 200 yards, 300 yards, that's fine, but your variables still change after that 400 yard mark. A little bit of wind could put you off, and that's not the scope's fault, that is the conditions' fault. And you could do that with even the top of the range models, So you've got to remember your own fieldcraft. You've got to remember your own shooting ability. It does not compensate for lack of trigger time and lack of knowing your own fundamentals, lack of knowing your own speed. A lot of people that are setting up these scopes as well are not quite sure on Scope height, how to measure scope height. They go on the box speed of their ammunition. The amount of people that still go on their box speed of their ammunition instead of putting the rifle through a chronograph, even if it's factory ammunition, the box speed could still be wrong. And I mean wrong by 200, 300, or even 500 FPS. In fact, in some cases, depending on the length of the barrels that people have, because a lot of hunters prefer shorter barrels, this ammunition is being tested on rifles that genuinely don't have moderators. They don't. The length of the barrels are 23 or 24 inch barrels. The twist rates are probably faster than the normal twist rates. They are. So the test rifles for this ammunition is far, far different from the test rifles of from your actual individual hunting rifle. So you need to know the velocities, the real-time velocities coming from your rifle with that bullet, whether it's a home load or whether it's a factory. You cannot go on box or book speeds. So yes, it doesn't really matter up to 150 yards, 200 yards, or even 250 yards. But it does matter if you're going 300 or 400 or 500 or further on, because it really does matter knowing all those little specifics and knowing your dope. Anyway, hope you enjoyed this one. Hope I've given you quite a lot of information. I am in the process of finishing up my DNT TNC 225 Thermite review. I have to say there's a lot of things I like about it. There's a few niggly things that are still kind of inherent, but DNT are very open to feedback. They're eager to be a good player, a big player in this industry, and they are they're straightening out those kinks, and that is a big deal. Anyway, thank you for watching. Happy hunting, stay safe, and I'll catch you again.